Hey guys, welcome to Back to Boring History episodes. Tonight, we're talking about something that feels so universal, so timeless, and yet in medieval Europe, it was anything but romantic. We're talking about dating. Not swiping, not texting, not even eye contact. We're talking dowries, goats, chaperones. Love, in the 1300s, wasn't a flutter in the chest. It was a family negotiation, a transaction, a quiet deal struck over lukewarm ale and barley bread. You might imagine candlelit castles, slow dances, and gallant knights writing poems. But the truth? Love back then was more likely to show up as a ladle, a plough, or a decent harvest. Maybe, if you were lucky, someone gave you a wooden spoon. And yet, somehow, people still found each other, even in the damp, dim halls of medieval matchmaking. If this kind of sleepy, mildly tragic storytelling soothes your brain, feel free to like, maybe subscribe to my channel, but only if it truly fits your rhythm. And tell me, where are you listening from tonight? What time is it where you are? There's a quiet kind of comfort, I think, in drifting off together from different corners of the world to the same dusty old story. Now, take a moment, dim your lights, let your room soften, turn on a fan for that low hum like wind curling across the mossy stones of a forgotten village wall. Let your breath slow, let your hands fall still, let the day melt away. You're not rushing into this story. You're drifting into it, leaving behind the world of calendars, dating apps, and weird first dates. You've just woken up in a small village, somewhere in Europe. It's the year 1325, and today is just another ordinary day, but ordinary in medieval Europe. Part 1. A Day in Medieval Europe, 1325. The rooster doesn't crow. Not with confidence, anyway. It kind of wheezes. Like it, too, is unsure why anyone should bother waking up. The light leaking through the cracks in your cottage roof isn't sunrise. It's just less dark. Grey, like the inside of a soup bowl that's already been scraped clean. You stir beneath a pile of scratchy wool. The straw mattress beneath you creaks. Someone has already stolen your corner of the blanket. Someone else, possibly a sibling, possibly a goat, is snoring. You're awake. Welcome to 1325. You live in a cottage smaller than a modern bathroom. The ceiling is low enough to hit with your head. The floor is mostly dirt, with a few decorative patches of damp. Your family is peasant class, like nearly everyone else. No nobility, no stained glass. Just the daily joy of surviving with minimal resources and maximum chores. You roll out of bed, you stretch, your knees crack, which is impressive given you're maybe 16, possibly 17. Birthdays aren't really a thing. They happened, probably, but no one wrote it down. So when people ask your age, you say, old enough. Today is not a feast day, which means you'll be eating pottage again. Same pottage as yesterday. Barley, a few bits of root, and the faint memory of something green. You scoop it up with a wooden spoon your brother chewed on last week. He might be 4 or 6. Time is soft here. Outside, the village is already half awake. Smoke rises in thin, uncertain trails from the chimneys. Mist clings to the ground like a lazy blanket, and someone, somewhere, is shouting about pigs. You step outside. Your boots squelch in the mud. You pass your neighbour, who is beating laundry against a rock. You nod. She nods back. That's more affection than most people get in a day. Work begins. You help your father patch a fence with sticks and prayer. Your mother is spinning wool. Your sister is hauling water. Your youngest brother is trying to ride the dog again. And caution, You're placed across from him at dinner. Bread is passed, stew is ladled. Someone mentions strong oxen. You're not sure if it's a compliment or a dowry tactic. The boy looks at you. You look at him. Then you both look away, horrified by your own boldness. Scandal. His father mentions your rosy health. Your mother laughs too loudly. Your father mutters something about grandchildren. You are, officially, being evaluated. Later that night, your mother tells you, "He's nice, strong arms, good land." You ask, "Does he read?" She blinks, then laughs. "Oh, you sweet thing, no one reads." This is dating, not hearts and flowers, but goats and gossip. Not flirtation, but positioning. You do not date for love, you date for survival. Love, if you're lucky, might come later. If not, you'll settle for mild tolerance and a shared blanket. Before bed, you step outside. The moon is full but pale, the stars faint. There is no music, just the low sounds of night animals and distant coughs. You think about the boy, his hands, his silence, the way his mother kept glancing at your elbows. You are not in love. You are on the list. You are now part of the system. Tomorrow, they'll discuss goats and land and possibly spoons. Because nothing says romance like quality kitchenware. You return to your straw bed. A sibling kicks you. The chicken shifts in its sleep. You stare at the ceiling and wonder what your life might look like a year from now. Maybe married, maybe moved, maybe pregnant, at 16. But for now, you just listen to the wind outside, soft and steady, and try to fall asleep before someone else steals your blanket again. Part 2. Where faith watches the heart. The smell of old ash still lingers in your hair. The morning is quieter than usual. Even the hens seem hesitant today, as if they too know something is being discussed without them. You've barely finished your pottage when your mother looks at you. Not unkindly, but with that look she gives the bread when it's risen just enough. Your father is already at the doorway. He's cleaned his boots. That only happens for 2 reasons: church or funerals. This is not a funeral. In the village, the church stands at the edge of the green. Its stones are old, moss-bitten. Its bell rings only once every so often. Not by schedule, but when someone remembers to pull the rope. You walk toward it slowly, not because you're reluctant, but because that's how people walk when they're being watched by fate. The priest is waiting, not stern, not smiling, just there, like lichen on stone. He knows why you're here, even before you say anything. He nods to the wooden bench. You sit. The other boy, the one who might be your future, sits beside you. Still doesn't speak. Still smells like old wool and quiet decisions. The priest asks questions, simple ones. Your names? Your families? Do you come freely? You both nod. He writes something in a book that smells like wax and old promises. This is where love goes to be observed. Not to bloom, not yet, but to be held carefully, like a candle in wind. The church doesn't ask you to love. It asks you to agree, to be honest, to be eligible, to be distant enough on the family tree that your children won't be born with hooves. You hope you are. But the tree is a tangled one, and no one can quite remember if your grandmother's sister married his cousin's uncle or just danced with him at midsummer. The priest sighs. That's good enough. In 3 Sundays your names will be read aloud. The banns, spoken from the pulpit, slow and clear, like an announcement to the wind. If any man here knows of a reason these two should not be joined. You've heard it before.
Inside you. Not dread, not joy, just stillness. Like the air before snowfall. That night, you don't sleep right away. Your sister is already snoring. The fire has gone low. You lie awake, eyes tracing the beams of the ceiling, wondering if he's doing the same. Wondering if, maybe, just maybe, this won't be so bad. Outside, the night is thick. No stars, just the soft breath of the earth turning over in sleep. And somewhere, faintly, a bell rings, just once, just enough to remind you, someone is watching, and they are writing it all down.
Part 3. The quiet language of courtship. The day after your names were spoken at Mass, someone leaves something on your doorstep. A wooden spoon, carved, smooth with a curled handle that loops like a question mark. Not new, but cared for. Its edges are soft from years of stirring. You hold it in your palm, and for a moment, you forget that love here isn't spoken aloud. Because this is how he says he's thinking of you. In your world, love doesn't arrive with flowers. It doesn't sweep you off your feet. It arrives like this: a spoon, a shared apple, a glance held for half a heartbeat longer than it should be. Everything has meaning. Everything is code. The spoon might mean, I'm ready, or I see you, or simply, I can make things with my hands. It's not about the object, it's about what time was spent on it. Time he could have used mending a fence, or watching the cow, or doing anything else that wasn't you. But he chose to carve, quietly, without you asking. You tell no one. Of course you don't. But you hide the spoon under your blanket that night, and fall asleep with your fingers around the curve of it. Because in a world where affection must pass through family, priest, and livestock, this is the closest thing to a secret. A few days later, your friend, the baker's niece, tells you she once got a button. Not gold, not silver, just round and polished. He found it in the river. She kept it in her apron for years, even after he married someone else. That's how it goes. These symbols stay, even when the people don't. You wonder if he'll give you anything else. A ribbon, a woven charm, a feather from the high tree behind the churchyard, but you know better than to expect. Here, expectations are heavy, and love is a thing you carry lightly, or not at all. You see him again the next market day. He's selling eggs, you're carrying onions. You pass each other. No words. But he reaches into his pocket and drops something in your basket. A pebble. Smooth, pale grey, without the hole under the sleeve. He will not kiss you in front of the priest. He may not kiss you at all. But maybe, that morning, you'll find another spoon. Just a little smaller. Just enough for one person. And you'll understand. Years from now, when your children ask how you met, you'll say, he gave me a spoon. They'll laugh. They'll roll their eyes. They'll say that's silly. And maybe it is. But also, maybe it's not. Because love doesn't always need to be loud, or wild, or sudden. Sometimes, it's shaped like a spoon. Smooth, useful, quiet. Something that fits in your hand and stays there.
Part 4. The wedding, and why no one smiled that much. It's morning. Cool, fog-wrapped. The kind of morning that makes you wonder if the sun has simply moved on. Today is your wedding day. Though no one calls it that, they just say, today's the day. Your mother is already awake. She's boiling something. Maybe water, maybe herbs, maybe nerves. Your father has put on his cleanest shirt,
It still smells like smoke, but only mildly. You dress quietly, in linen you haven't worn since Easter. Your hair is braided twice. Your face is clean, mostly. Your sister buttons your sleeve. Your hands shake. She pretends not to notice. There are no flowers, not because no one thought of them, but because the only ones in bloom are nettles, and no one wants those near your elbows. The groom, your groom, is already outside. He hasn't seen you yet, but he's talking to the priest. Or more accurately, he's nodding. A lot. The priest is doing most of the talking. He seems resigned, like someone who's done this 20 times this month, and once for himself, badly. The entire village gathers, but only because there's stew afterward. No one brings a gift. That's not custom here. Instead, they bring stories, quiet gossip, and advice no one asks for. Make sure he builds the fire right. Don't let her salt the soup too much. Your grandmother once slapped your grandfather with a ladle, and they were married 40 years. All helpful. There is no music, but someone hums, a soft, shapeless tune. It follows you like a shadow as you walk to the church, barefoot. Because shoes are for winter, and you'll need those later. The ceremony is short, not because love is simple, but because no one wants to stand in the drafty nave longer than necessary. You stand side by side. You say your names. You nod when asked. You do not cry. You do not laugh. You breathe. You stay very still. And when it's done, the priest doesn't say, "You may kiss," because you may nod. The door closes. You sit beside each other. The room is warm from the fire. You hold the spoon, the one he carved. He notices. He says nothing. You place it between you, not as a wall, but as a kind of promise. He offers you the blanket. You share it, and when sleep finally comes, it is slow and quiet, and not unkind. No one claps. No one throws petals, but someone, somewhere, rings a bell, once, because a marriage has begun. And whether or not there is joy, there is intention. And sometimes, in this place, that's more than enough. Part 5. Living together. Romance in the time of mud and chickens. You wake up, not to birdsong, but to the wet slap of mud against the side of the house, and someone shouting about a goat. Possibly your goat, possibly not. The goat doesn't care. This is your first week of marriage. The house is colder than you thought it would be. The bed, slightly smaller. The walls let in more sound than secrets. And someone, probably your new husband, has forgotten to chop the kindling again. But there's one small difference now. You're not alone in the bed. There are now 4 living beings in your house. You, him, a cousin who won't leave, and a chicken who refuses to sleep anywhere but your blanket. The chicken somehow prefers your side. Your husband isn't a man of many words, but he is a man of quiet gestures. He brings in firewood before sunset. He sharpens the knives without being asked. He leaves the last bit of stew in the pot, even when he's still hungry. It's not affection exactly, but it's something near it, like warmth through a wall, soft, indirect, but reaching you all the same. You divide chores like one divides bread, by instinct. No discussion, just the knowing. You milk the goat, he mends the fence. You sweep, he forgets to hang the laundry. You don't mention it. But that night, he shakes out your cloak before you wear it, brushes off the dust with one long, quiet hand. No words, no thank yous, just rhythm. Some days you sit in silence. He carves things, you mend them. Other days he tells you about the pigs. The pigs, it seems, are always escaping, though you've never seen them do it. You nod. You say, because pigs matter to him, and now so do you. One evening he gives you a comb, wooden, smooth, carved from birch. You don't ask where he got it. You don't need to.
You run it through your hair that night, slowly, gently, and sleep with it beside your spoon. Your neighbors call you his wife now. You were once just Marta's daughter. Now you are half of something, a new identity, a new sound in the mouths of others. He becomes her husband, the one who doesn't talk much, but presence without performance. The cousin leaves after 2 weeks. The chicken stays. On the 20th night, the rain is heavier than usual. You both wake to the sound of dripping. The roof again. He moves the bed. You place a bowl to catch the leak. You both lie back down. No complaints, no sighs. Just a soft, shared stillness. And the chicken, softly snoring somewhere in the dark. You begin to remember his hands more than his face, how they move, what they hold, how they place things, not roughly, but with care, as if everything might be the last of its kind. You start handing him things more often, not because he needs them, but because you like the way he takes them from you. There is no sudden moment, no lightning bolt, no choir of angels descending upon your cottage, just a day when you realize you're waiting for him to come home, and not just because the fire needs tending. You want him there, even if he says nothing, even if he smells like hay and goats. Especially then. He returns with turnips. For once, he remembered. You almost laugh, but instead you place them in the stew and stir slowly, happier than you'd expect. Later, he says your name. Not loudly, not urgently, just to say it, like trying it out, like it tastes different now. You look up, you meet his eyes, and for the first time, you both don't look away. Somewhere outside, the goat screams. The world keeps moving. There are chores to do, mud to sweep, a roof to fix, again. But tonight, you sleep with your feet tangled, and the chicken stays on the floor.
Part 6. The quiet endings of medieval romance. Love stories here don't crash or burn. They don't leave letters in locked drawers. They don't end in fields of weeping. They settle, like flour into dough, like the gentle weight of a blanket pulled up at night, like a spoon, worn smooth from years of use. You've been married a long time now. You don't count in years, you count in winters, in buckets carried, in harvests survived. You know how many times the roof has been patched. You've both stopped pretending it'll ever stop leaking. But you don't mind anymore, because when it rains, you know exactly where the bowls go. He walks slower these days. His knees creak louder than the door, but he still carries wood for the fire, still hums that same off-key tune when he's thinking. You've learned every note of it. You hum along sometimes, badly. He never tells you to stop. You don't speak of love, not out loud. You never really did, but it shows up anyway, in the way he lets you sleep the extra 10 minutes in the morning, in the way you fold his cloak just right, in the way he sets your cup by the fire before you even ask. It's not flowers and sonnets. It's quiet kindness, repeated endlessly. Sometimes you find yourself holding the old spoon, the first one, from before you were married. You keep it in the drawer with the cracked hinge. Alongside it, a pale stone with a streak of white. A comb, a bent button you never returned. You don't open the drawer to look, just to feel that it's still there, proof of a beginning that never stopped unfolding. You see younger couples sometimes, at market, at church. They laugh loudly. They lean into each other like gravity hasn't taught them balance yet. You don't envy them. You remember being them. You remember the thrill. But you've grown something steadier, less like lightning, more like oak. One day, for no reason, he gives you a spoon. Again. You blink. You laugh. You ask, another one. He shrugs. The old one looked lonely. You don't cry, but your fingers wrap around the new stayed. Outside, the goat yells again, same as ever. You both sigh, same as ever. You stand. He grabs the rope. You pull on your shoes, and just like that, you're back in motion. Still together, still working, still not quite done yet. Part 7. Seasons of Familiarity. It's spring, or close enough. The snow has stopped pretending it owns the earth. The mud is back, the goat is louder. You wake up to the same roof, same walls, same breath beside yours, steady and familiar. He's already up, already started the fire. He left your tea by the bed, not hot anymore, but still warm, like him. This is what love becomes when it doesn't have to prove itself every day. It doesn't knock, it doesn't shout. It lingers. In the crease of his sleeve where he folds it just so. In the way you both reach for the same bucket and laugh softly when your hands meet. You've done this 100 times, maybe 1,000. But today it still makes you smile. Your days are a wheel now. Chores, meals, sleep. Sow, tend, harvest, rest. Repeat. And somehow the repetition doesn't dull things. It deepens them, like carving the same groove into wood over and over, until it fits your hand like a memory. You know each other's silences now. Which ones mean, I'm tired? Which ones mean, stay with me? And which ones simply say, you're here, good. He doesn't talk much about the future, neither do you. What's the point? You already have everything time was trying to give you. One morning he forgets something. His cloak. You grab it for him. He thanks you with a touch to your elbow. That touch stays with you all day. Not because it was special, but because it wasn't. That's what makes it real. Sometimes he leaves a piece of bread on your plate. Not because he's not hungry, but because he knows you'll pretend not to want it until it's already in your mouth. He never comments, but he always watches, like he enjoys the pretending too. In summer, he gets sunburned, again. You scold him gently. He rolls his eyes, but he lets you rub the balm on his neck, lets you care for him. There's a pause, and in it, you feel the weight of all the times you've faded, a little stretched, but still warm. Sometimes the past sneaks up on you. The drawer with the first spoon, the sound of a pebble rolling across the floor, the scent of something he used to wear, now faded into fabric. You don't cry, not anymore. You just pause, let it sit with you, and then keep going. Together. Winter again. You share the same bed, same blanket, same creaking floorboard near the hearth. He snores now, louder than before. You nudge him. He mumbles something about pigs. You both fall back asleep. The world outside may change, but inside, you've built something that holds. One night he looks at you across the table. No reason, no big moment, just a look, as if checking you're still there. You meet it, not with words, but with a small nod that says, I'm still here, I'm not going anywhere, we've made it this far. Love doesn't need new things. Sometimes it just needs to keep showing up, to keep planting, feeding, fixing, touching, sitting, laughing, even when the jokes aren't funny anymore, especially then. And outside, beneath the same old sky, the goat screams again. You both groan, but neither of you gets up right away, because for a moment, you're just sitting, still, in the familiar, and that is enough.
Part 8. The unexpected news. It's early afternoon. The light is soft. The kind of light that makes the dust look like magic. You're kneading dough. He's whittling. Neither of you is speaking. You don't need to. And then, a knock. Not a loud one. Just enough to remind you that the world exists outside your gate. You both pause. You wipe your hands on your apron. He sets down the knife. You look at each other. Same thought. Who would be calling today?
At the door, a boy, barefoot, dust on his sleeves, wiry, thin, eyes too big for his face. He holds something in his hand, a letter. He doesn't speak, just holds it out. You take it. He nods once, then runs back down the road without waiting for coin or thanks. You look at your husband. He raises an eyebrow. You open it, and just like that, your world leans sideways but doesn't fall. The letter is from your sister. You haven't heard from her in years. She lives 2 towns over, near the river. Her handwriting is still jagged, still a little impatient, still hers. You read it aloud. He's gone. I don't know what to do. Come if you can. Bring warmth. It says no name, no date, no details. But you know what she means. Her husband, your brother-in-law, the one who smiled too wide and always tried to fix broken things with just his hands. Your husband says nothing, just nods. You start packing, a loaf, 2 spoons, a scarf. He adds the blanket without asking, the one you both use on cold nights. You say, I won't be long. He says, take your time. Neither of you says, be safe. You trust the road. You trust the journey. And you trust that when you return, he'll still be here, whittling, waiting, probably scolding the goat. The walk takes 2 days. You stay in a barn the first night. The straw itches, but the stars are kind. You think of him, of how quiet the house must feel, of whether he remembered to cover the herbs. You think of your sister, how long it's been, how many winters she faced without you. When you arrive, she's already outside, waiting. Her eyes are tired, sealed with wax, cracked, already broken. No ceremony. Inside, your name, 1 sentence. Come home. Something's changed. Your breath catches, but not from fear, from not knowing. You leave before lunch. Your sister walks you halfway down the road. At the fork, you hug again. This time tighter, longer. You say, you'll be all right, she says. You too. And then, you walk. The sky is different on the way back. Grayer, more thoughtful. You think about the word change. It's such a small word for such a big feeling. You walk faster than usual. The same road feels shorter. Or maybe your legs are moving on memory alone. When you see the cottage, something shifts in your chest. Not panic, not dread, just an alertness, a readiness. You open the door, and there he is, your husband, standing in the middle of the room, hands tucked behind his back, smiling. Behind him, a girl, no older than 13, thin, freckled, holding a broom like it's a sword. She stares at you. You stare at her. Then your husband says, she's mine. Well, was mine, before I met you. Silence. He adds, gently, her mother's gone. I thought, she should come here. You don't say anything for a while. The girl shifts, unsure. You walk to the table, set down your bag. You say, does she eat stew? He nods, relieved. You say, then we'd better make some. And just like that, the house begins again. Outside, the goat screams. Inside, a new spoon is passed. And 3 people, not 2, sit down to dinner. The fire crackles. The bread is warm. And life, as always, finds a way to keep moving.
Part 9. Learning each other again. There are now 3 bowls on the table. One of them is chipped. No one says anything. You eat slower now. Not because you're less hungry, but because there's more to listen to. The girl, her name is Ellen, asks too many questions, or maybe just enough. Why is the floor slanted? Why does the goat hate me? Why does he snore like that? You don't answer all of them. Some are better left as mysteries, like why the sky is sometimes pink at dusk, or why your husband always carves his spoons with a notch near the handle. She sweeps too loudly, walks too quickly, eats with her elbows on the table. She folds towels wrong, leaves the door open, hum songs you don't know. At first, you feel her like a creak in an old chair. Not painful, just unfamiliar, but not for long. You find yourself watching her more than speaking. The way her hair never stays tied. The way she pets the goat like it's a dog, even though it bites. You notice when she skips breakfast, when she lingers too long at the window, when she flinches at thunder. You begin adjusting, quietly, gently, without making a fuss. That's how love makes room, not loudly, but faithfully. Your husband is different now too, softer somehow. He watches Ellen when she sleeps, carves her a tiny fox from wood, doesn't say it's for her, but leaves it near her shoes. She finds it, says nothing, but the next day, it's in her pocket. You share chores now. You show her how to mend a seam. She pretends not to care, but you see how carefully she watches. One morning, you catch her refolding the towels your way. You say nothing, just smile into your tea. Progress comes in small folded corners. There are hard days too, the day she cries without explaining, the day she snaps and says she wishes she were somewhere else, the day she throws the spoon and slams the door. You don't take it personally. Instead, you wait. You leave food by her door. You light the lantern outside her window. You let her come back without questions, because grief doesn't need fixing. It just needs space and time and a steady roof overhead. Some nights you find her asleep, her finger. You bandage it, and the three of you keep going. Your cottage is louder now, messier, fuller. You've tripped on her shoes at least 10 times. She sings while milking the goat, who seems to tolerate it. The house, once echoing in its quiet, is now alive with footsteps and sighs and slammed shutters. And you wouldn't trade it for anything. You teach her how to bake bread. The first one is too flat, the second is burnt. The third is edible. She beams like she just built a castle. You call it rustic. She rolls her eyes, but makes another the next day. One evening, as the fire settles, she brings out the old drawer, the one with the comb, the pebble, the spoons. She doesn't ask, just looks. You watch her fingers hover over the items, not touching, just memorizing. Then she says, "Did you always love him?" You pause, then say, "I loved who he became, and he let me become too." She thinks about that, then nods, puts everything back, carefully. You exhale. There's still much she doesn't know, still stories she hasn't asked, still silences between you, but the gap is smaller now. There are 3 spoons at dinner, 3 cloaks by the door, 3 voices arguing over the last apple. And for the first time, when she says home, she means this one. Outside, the leaves begin to fall. The goat still screams, but this time, you hear laughter follow it. And inside, you all sit together. The fire dances, the bread rises, and the quiet love that once belonged to 2 has learned how to make space for 3. Part 10. She asks about her mother. It's late afternoon. The sky's the color of old parchment. Outside, the goat is asleep, finally. Inside, the soup is simmering. It smells like thyme and something warm. You're slicing bread. She's peeling potatoes, badly. Your husband is outside, talking to the neighbor, which really means he's nodding slowly while the neighbor talks. And then, without looking up, she asks, "What was she like?" You pause, not because you don't know, but because you weren't ready. Still, the knife keeps slicing, and you answer, "Your mother." She nods, slowly, still peeling. You don't lie, you don't rush. You let the moment breathe. Then, softly, she had quick hands, like yours, and a laugh that sounded like wind on dry leaves. Sudden, bright, always moving. Ellen says nothing, but she peels better after that, more careful. You stir the soup, add more salt than usual. You're not sure why. She breaks the silence again,
Did you like her? A harder question. But you answer anyway. I didn't know her well, but your father smiled differently when she was near. That says more than anything I could. She looks at you now. Really looks. Eyes full of thoughts that don't yet have words. You meet her gaze. Don't flinch. That's what she needs. The silence returns, but it's warmer now. You ladle soup into bowls. Set the bread between you. She eats slowly, spoons carefully. Like the soup might answer questions too. You wait. No pushing. Then, just as your husband steps through the door, hands muddy, smile lazy, she asks, "Why didn't he tell me about her?" He hears, freezes, doesn't speak. You look at him. He looks at her, then at you. You nod. He sits down, takes off his gloves, and says, "Because it hurt." No one moves. He continues, voice low. "She was bright, too bright for me. I never knew how to hold light in days." The soup gets cold. No one minds. Eventually, Ellen says, "I wish I had something from her." You look around, at the shawl she wears, at the way she tucks her leg under the chair, at the way she scowls when the bread is burnt. And you say, you do. She doesn't answer, but you know she hears. That night, after dishes, she doesn't go straight to bed. She lingers, helps you wipe the table, asks how long you've lived in the cottage, asks if the goat has a name. You both agree not to name it. Asks if you've ever been in love with anyone else. You raise an eyebrow, say, "Only with warm bread and quiet mornings." She laughs, then asks, softer, "And with him?" You glance at your husband, now pretending to read. You say, "Every day, even on the days I didn't know it yet." Later, you find the locket under her pillow, opened, facing up. You close the door quietly, let her sleep with the weight of history on her chest and the warmth of the present around her. Outside, the wind shifts. Inside, nothing breaks, only bends. And maybe that's the shape of healing. Part 11. Her first festival. The morning is louder than usual. Birds gossip in the trees. Children yell down the path. Even the goat seems suspiciously enthusiastic. It's festival day. The only day in the year when the village smells like cinnamon and roasted meat instead of smoke and turnips. You've been before, many times, but this year feels different. Because this year, Ellen is going. She pretends not to care, says things like, "It's just noisy," or "I don't like people," or "The goat's breath smells better than old men in crowds." But that morning, she braids her hair, washes her face, and asks quietly, "Do they have pie?" You just smile and hand her the good shawl. Your husband sharpens his knife, not for defense, for whittling spoons on benches. It's his festival habit. Carve, sit, watch, say nothing unless the cider is warm. You pack bread, a cloth to sit on, and the same old apple you always forget to eat. Ellen stuffs her pockets with dried berries in case the food is terrible. You don't tell her the food is never terrible. You let her prepare anyway. The path to the village is lined with flags this year. Reds and oranges and blues. Worn, slightly faded, but flapping like they've waited all year for this wind. Children run past with sticky hands. Someone plays a flute, badly. Ellen walks between you, not holding hands, but close enough to match your steps. At the village square the world opens. Stalls of cloth, tables of pies, games involving questionable physics. Music drifts from every corner. It doesn't always follow a key, but somehow it feels right. Ellen's eyes go wide. She tries to hide it. fails. You don't say, "I told you so." You just press a coin into her palm and nod toward the pie table. She runs. You and your husband sit on the same bench you always do, near the fountain, under the crooked tree. He pulls out his knife, begins to carve. Same rhythm, same hands. You exhale.
Better last year. Ellen sits between you, closer now. Hands sticky, hair messy, eyes bright. She whispers, "I didn't think it would feel like this." You ask, "Like what?" She shrugs, then says, "Like I'm not just visiting." Someone hands her a candle for the procession. A quiet walk around the square, each person carrying light. She hesitates, looks at you. You nod. You light hers with your own, then your husband's. And slowly the three of you walk, not fast, not ceremonious, just steady with everyone else. And as the candles glow, you see her face in the soft light, and you know she's becoming someone who might stay. On the walk home, she holds your husband's hand. He pretends not to notice, but doesn't let go. She hums the tune from the flute, still off key, still perfect. You carry the ugly bird, its one good eye catching the moonlight. When you reach the cottage, the goat bleats once, like it missed you, maybe. Inside, you wash her hands. She yawns through a story about the pie seller's accent and falls asleep with the wooden bird under her arm. You sit by the fire, your husband still whittling. A new spoon now, smaller for smaller hands. You don't speak, don't need to, because in this house, after this day, there's something new in the air. Not change, not chaos, not excitement. The fire crackles low. She sleeps peacefully in the corner, curled around her wooden bird. You rise, check the windows, tuck another log into the hearth. Your husband sets aside the spoon. His hand brushes yours. Neither of you speaks, but you feel it. This story, your story, has taken root. Not the story you imagined, not the one you thought you'd live, but the one that found you and grew. With spoons and soup and a stubborn goat. It grew through silence, through winter, through the arrival of a girl with too many questions and not enough answers. And somehow, quietly, it became a family, not by blood, but by choice, not by grand gestures, but by daily ones, by the bread you baked. Part 12. The winter she grows. Winter returns, slowly, not with storms, but with breath that hangs in the air a little longer, with footsteps that crunch instead of echo, with silence that fills the cottage like smoke. But this year, something's different. You don't carry all the buckets. You don't light all the fires. You don't have to remind her to close the door behind her. Because this year, Ellen remembers. She ties her boots without being asked, feeds the goat before it yells, stacks wood like it matters. One night, you find her mending your old shawl. Not perfectly, but carefully. You ask her why. She shrugs, says, "You wear it the most." She's taller now. Not much, just enough to reach the top shelf without standing on her toes. You pretend not to notice, but your husband carves a new spoon, longer handle. She doesn't say thank you, just uses it the next morning, stirs the porridge without spilling a drop. There's a quiet competence in her now, like a flame that's learned how to stay lit without needing to flare. She doesn't ask if you love her, not anymore, because now she knows. One day, the neighbor's roof caves in. Your husband stands to grab his coat, but Ellen is already lacing her boots. She nods once. "I'll take the bucket." No questions, no hesitation. You watch her go and realize she's not the guest here anymore. She's the kindling, the second heartbeat.
the warmth that stays when the fire's gone low. And when spring comes, and the goat finally births two noisy, ridiculous kids, she names one after your husband. He pretends to be annoyed, but you catch him feeding it dried apple from his pocket. That evening, you sit by the hearth. She's reading now, slowly, lips moving. You stir the soup. He hums off key. She corrects his note. And you smile, because this house isn't just a house anymore. It's hers now too. And she will carry it forward, with spoons, with pies. If you stayed until now, through the soft winters, the wooden spoons, the stubborn goats, and the quiet growth of a home, then thank you, truly, not just for watching, but for listening, with the kind of patience that stories like this require, stories that don't shout, that don't twist or turn loudly, that simply settle, like snow on a thatched roof, like soup in a wooden bowl. If something in this story made you feel safe, seen, or just a little softer, consider leaving a like, subscribing, or sharing it with someone who needs a quiet night too. And if you'd like more stories like this, told slowly, gently, without rush or noise, you're always welcome here. We'll leave the candle lit. Sleep well. Be warm. And may your own story grow slow and kind. Good night. And we will meet again.